So we are getting started here, and the room may look a little different than some of the other presentations that you have been in, and that is because we are doing a fishbowl. And just to explain quickly what a fishbowl presentation or what a fishbowl conversation is supposed to look like, is you'll see all of our presenters on the inside of the room in a circle, and who are sitting on the outside are going to be observing a conversation of our fish in the fishbowl. And they're going to be talking about a variety of different topics today surrounding collaboration of individuals with lived experience and lived and living experience. And we do have a PowerPoint that is to go along with this, and if we get it up and running, great. And if we don't, that's okay too. We're gonna go on the fly and just make it work. And so the first thing I would like to do is I'm gonna introduce myself, and then I'm gonna ask the individuals who are presenting to introduce themselves. And so I am Mandy Mastros. I'm an advisor to the Homeless Advocacy Board in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. And I'm simply moderating. I'm gonna ask questions of our presenters today to share that information that they have to share with you. So I'm going to turn it over to Antonio first, and if each presenter could introduce themselves with their name and where they're from, and anything else you might want to share as part of your introduction.
Thank you, Maggie. I do not like microphones. I feel like my voice is loud enough, but we're going to use the microphone today. My name is Antonio Pizano. I wear many hats in the Bay Area. I am on many boards through Alameda County, Solano County, which is Oakland, Vallejo. I have been a foster youth most of my life and grew up through systems and have dealt with homelessness in many counties, really navigating resources around those counties and supporting homeless individuals, primarily youth, because I am a former homeless youth, former foster youth, and I'm just here to give back and share my insight about my journey, my homelessness experience, and what's to come from that. I'll pass it on to Joe.
Jose Joey Carrizales, in the city of Vallejo. I'm a formerly unsheltered, unhoused, homeless person. 2014, 2016, I lived in the JFK Library of the city of Vallejo, downtown. That was my main spot of living, so to speak. Since 2017, I have been heavily active in the Housing First COC board, former board member, not currently a board member. I'm co-chair of Coordinated Entry System with my good friend DeAndre Richard. He's the program director. And basically, I have been doing this advocacy work for about 10 years. 7 years very actively, very strong, very passionate. And I look forward to being as much strong voice as I can for my unsheltered, as I would call my unsheltered friends.
Hello, my name is Wes White from Salinas, California. Part of the Lived Experience Advisory Directive in Monterey and San Benito counties. We actually have 2 counties. One of the only, I guess there's 30 Continuums of Care. We started the Project Home Key in 2020 during the pandemic. I egged on a little bit of that. I'm the service director now of the county. She was our executive director. There's lots to go, but I just want to give it a shout. Oh, I'm also part of the Poor People's Campaign, a national call for moral revival. They actually egged me on to starting the first Homeless Union chapter, reestablishing the National Union of the Homeless on Martin Luther King Jr. Day in 2016. And now we have about 30 chapters in California and 50 throughout the nation.
Right. My name is LyVesha Franklin. I co-chair the Lead Council that Wes is also on for the Monterey and San Benito County. I have my own nonprofit organization for a Black birthing network in Monterey County, so I'm also a doula and a community health worker. And I also have lived experience with homelessness. And during that time, I I experience compound barriers, both sexism and racism. And there's not a lot of safe spaces for Black women here in America, especially not single Black moms. So during my experience with homelessness, I also lost custody of 3 of my children, which I had to fight for and gain back, which I'll tell more about that as we dive into the story. But this work is very passionate for me, and I know that Black women are underrepresented in the rooms and spaces for these decisions and policy updates. So that's why I'm here, because representation matters to me.
Hello, I'm Bill Higgins. Glad to see someone else here from Maine. We're on Facebook Live because I bet 2 of my Naval Academy classmates are watching this, which is sweet. And today I was struck. There was a woman that walked up to me and said, she called my name, remember what she looked like, and said, I helped her first day that she was homeless. And it's like, I've been working on starting this nonprofit for 7 years. It will get it out the door and get it going. And here in Maine, we're paying people with lived experience or living experience to attend meetings, which is something I've pushed for a while. If you're not being paid to go to CSC meetings, they're not doing it right.
Hello, everyone. My name is David Nagel. I'm part of the Homeless Advocacy Board from Lancaster, Pennsylvania. We formed about a year ago. There's 7 of us here from our group today. I guess what I could start out by saying is I hear the term quite a bit, like previously lived experience. Sometimes people add living experience, and I'm in the living category. I'm unsheltered right now. I hope to have an apartment rather soon, maybe in the next 1 to 2 months. But I've been homeless for a year, unhoused, I should say, for a year and 4 months approximately. I am in a pretty decent shelter. It's not the emergency type shelter, it's more like the longer term residency type of shelter. I can stay there if I choose for up to like 18 months. So that involves just having like 1 roommate in a very small room, but it is our own private room, as opposed to, a big barracks-like situation with 50 guys in one big space. So that's my current situation. As a member of the Homeless Advocacy Board, one of our goals and some of the training we kind of received at the outset was exactly for the purpose of trying to prepare ourselves to possibly take part as a board member of the various organizations and agencies that deal with homeless issues and topics and different kinds of service providers. I feel really fortunate that I was able to get onto a board. It's actually, I guess you could call it the COC for Lancaster County. It's called the Lancaster County Homelessness Coalition. And I'm one of the 18 members of the steering committee now, which I can hardly believe it sometimes because the director of the shelter that I stay at, he's on the same steering committee that I'm on, so we get like the same emails now. But he's the president of the organization, or the CEO, and I'm one of the guests or residents. So I felt really fortunate to be here. I don't have the kind of long-term experience that a lot of people have mentioned. My first experience with any of this topic came about by becoming homeless myself, in a way I never expected, never thought about very much. I spent about 20 years as a teacher in Washington, D.C., and through a series of kind of flukish circumstances, I ended up in Lancaster and Millersville, and then Lancaster again, and then out on the streets in Lancaster. So anyway, I definitely have learned a lot about the whole situation of homelessness compared to like before I ever became homeless myself. So that really made a huge difference in my outlook. And I also feel I know half the people in Lancaster who are homeless, like either by name or at least by face. it's almost like this little sub-community that exists. And when I say half the people in Lancaster, I'd say the homeless people are like a third of the people in Lancaster, because it's truly amazing how many people are just wandering the streets in a small city like that. Okay.
Hi, I'm Angelina Hernandez. I'm also part of the Homeless Advocacy Board, as David mentioned. Everyone on our board has lived experience, including me. My story kind of surrounds lack of support, mental health issues. I couch hopped for over a year until I ended up on the street and then in a shelter that was ran by a religion that I don't want to conform to, so it's an extremely traumatizing experience. There's a lot of programs in our area that you only qualify for if you have an addiction or children. I have neither of those things, therefore I did not get assistance. So I had to figure it out kind of on my own. When we formed this board though, it really did a lot for me because I just had so much anger and so much to say about the system and nothing to do with it. So yeah, I really love the work that we do. We did like a training and equipping series. We made all of the nonprofits that would come sit in a room together and we said, hey, stop trying to solve a problem without talking to each other. You all want to claim that you're doing the work, you want the title, you want the name, you want the credit, but you're not actually doing anything. Yeah, so we do a lot of work with our community. We made resource cards that have a map. It has the location of every resource that we could find and where to find it. It also pointed out that there are not a lot of resources and not a lot of ways to get to them. If you have any type of mobility issues, you will be struggling in our city to get a meal, just bare minimum. Yeah, I don't know what else to say. Everyone else on our board serves on another nonprofit board. I do not, because I was on a board and they tokenized me. They didn't care about what I actually had to say. I was invited to one meeting, they let me speak for 5 minutes, never again. So I told them it's not okay, and I dropped them. So it kind of just highlights both sides of the coin. Some nonprofits are cool, other ones just want a face. Yeah, we'll talk more.
So I've been conversing with this group for a while, and I know that 90 minutes is not enough to even touch the wisdom and the expertise and the value of what they could have in conversation. And so we have a lot that we're going to try to cover in a short period of time. I'm going to throw some questions out there and then have them pass the mics back and forth around the group to answer them. We're going to do the best we can to cover the topics that we have on a kind of a high level, but I encourage you to reach out to the individuals after the session to get a more in-depth look. So we may not get to all the questions that we talked about, guys, but we're gonna get started now with those and see kind of where we get to. The slides will not necessarily match up exactly with what we are saying because this is meant to be an impromptu conversation, but it is something to give a little bit of a visual aid so that you have a piece of the conversation that we're having. And so the first question I want to ask is, what are some common myths or stereotypes that people hold about individuals experiencing homelessness? How do these misconceptions harm individuals? And how do they hinder broader societal support for this population? So whoever would like to go first in answering that, I believe that these questions originated from Antonio and Jose, so let's let you get started.
Yeah, we could definitely get started with that. So as a side, kind of say there's a couple myths up there that surround homelessness, and there are a lot of myths that surround homelessness, right? That homeless folks are in that space because they want to be there and they don't want to work. That they are mentally ill and that's why they're homeless. But as you may know, being homeless isn't a result of mental health. It is a way to cope with mental health issues, with homelessness, doing drugs. They're not. Drugs and mental health don't cause homelessness. They're usually a coping mechanism for homelessness. There are folks that say homeless individuals are dangerous and that we don't want any help, but we do want help. We want to be be a part of our society. We want to work in these spaces, but sometimes we have challenges that we face that don't allow us to be our whole selves and be able to be in these spaces. Like our keynote speaker said earlier, like he was trying to get into college and he couldn't get into college because of his background being in the prison system. These are definitely things that our society puts on us that can affect how we can move in the society. These hinder us from going from our situations to being able to go above that poverty level. And I'll pass it to.
Thank you, amigo. These are trigger words that really upset me when I'm at these meetings. They choose, they want, they don't like, they don't accept, they say no, they're lazy. The misperceptions of the general public is astounding to me. And one of the main questions that I ask is, have you ever asked an unsheltered person? Instead of listening to the friends and families and your associates and your aunt and your uncle and your brother and sister, go to the unsheltered person and ask that person. Sit down with them, listen to them, listen to their story, hear what they say. As part of my work for the last year, I was unsheltered in 2014, 2016. Like I said, I lived in the library. And since then, I go to encampments 4 or 5 times a week. Spend time. 95% of them in the city of Vallejo know who I am already because I established that relationship with them for the last 6, 7 years. They all tell me, Joey, why don't they just help us? Why don't they just listen to us? Instead of sweeping us, instead of displacing us, instead of taking our cars, instead of taking our RVs, instead of creating harm for us, criminalizing, arresting us, which creates a record, which is a deterrent to receiving further services. Because they do a credit check. There's going to be an eviction on there. There's going to be a misdemeanor arrest. So that's a barrier. But that's what society, I don't want to say society, but that's what certain policymakers, certain so-called leaders, as I would say, have that perception. They would rather do away with us and let us do what we're going to do. In my opinion, it's treating a human being inhumanely. And why? We all breathe the same air. We all use the same bathroom. We all have a cell phone. And we all use, some of us eat the same type of food. What is different from us? What is different about us? Nothing, as my young friend shaking her head over there. Nothing. What's different is that we smell. We have an aroma. We wear the same clothes for the 6 months. We walk differently. We're old. We haven't shaven. And those are the type of misperceptions that a lot of the general public have, especially the policymakers, who don't have a full and clear understanding of who we are, of who an unsheltered person is. And that's kind of like a point of our discussion here. The first step to helping is to understand. You understand us, hopefully the common sense brain clicks in and you figure out a way to help us.
Yeah, I just wanted to speak on that. I actually did a speaking engagement for a shelter that's opening soon in our area. Mandy knows about this. And there's this big thing that I have noticed where when we were speaking about homelessness, we say they, them, they, as if, and I said this and because the entire conversation about this new shelter opening was, they are going to do this, and they're going to break into our homes, and they're going to destroy everything. And I'm like, homeless people are not a race of people. I will say this so many times. Homeless people are not a race of people. There's not a culture behind homelessness. There are not traditions. There are not patterns. There is not consistency. Homelessness is something someone is experiencing, and it is individual for every person. So the talk of like, we need to understand them. There is no them. It's a person. You will never understand every individual experiencing homelessness because there is not, the only similarity they have is that they don't have a home. That's it. There's no consistency between people who are homeless because every single person's story is different. Every single person's opinions and views and lifestyle and everything about them is different. The only thing they have in common is that they don't have a home.
So the biggest thing I would say is not to understand them, it's to understand yourself.
The situation.
Right, and the situation. Understand where you came from. Understand how you want to change those systems. What impacted you to move forward. For me, I lost both my parents by age 13. I had to figure out how to live in a world without guidance. I bounced around from many foster homes. I lived in every city in the Bay Area, San Jose, Oakland, San Francisco, Antioch. I've lived with every culture, family that you could think of. I had to really utilize my experience and really take ownership of myself in demanding what I want to see change. When I was 17, I got my first apartment, and I thought I was above it all. I thought I could do everything in this world, but that didn't last for long. I was stupid, I made mistakes. I ended up getting kicked out of my housing program, and I ended up homeless because of a situation that I couldn't control. And it was my fault, but it wasn't my fault that I became homeless. I didn't have the people in my background to teach me how to be a man, how to pay bills, how to understand what's going on. So what I did as an individual is I made sure that I knew my voice mattered. I made sure I put myself in multiple spaces. I'm a founding member of the Alameda County Youth Action Board. I'm a founding member of the Solano County Youth Action Board. I'm a member of the Lived Experience Board in Solano County and a former co-chair. I did this because I wanted to help the community. And I started in these places without receiving compensation. But understanding where you come from as an individual and using your own power to really create changes and solutions is very important. I was a part of a community in Alameda County where we applied for the Youth Homeless Demonstration Program grant. It was unseen to see a youth write a coordinated community plan, which is a 75-page document. But I said, no, I want to be that person and make sure that our community has the opportunity to change and implement programs that are going to help our community. Now I work for a program called Voices Youth Center, and I am I'm a coordinator of a peer navigation program. I am mentoring other young peers to be case managers for other youth in the community on how to navigate resources. I hear a lot about there's not enough resources, there aren't out there. But I noticed in my line of work, there's a lack of knowledge of the resources that are out there. And we need to find them. We need to create integrated communities that talk to each other to really amplify what we're doing and amplify those resources and connect them together, right? So it is about you knowing your own power, your own strength, and speaking up for yourself. This is how we make change in lived experience boards. I didn't get here by being quiet, sitting on my hands, twiddling my thumbs, no. When I was in foster care, I told my social worker how to do his job better than he knew how to do his job. I told him like, hey, I need a couch. He's like, oh, I don't got no money for a couch. Well, you got a discretionary funds in the social services office that you can utilize up to $600 a year to pay for my couch. So buy me a couch, right? Buy me a bike, buy me what I need to get around. Give me my BART ticket so I could get around on public transportation. I sucked all the money out of the system that you possibly could so I can be successful in what I want to do. And now I give myself back to my community. I help other young people get to where they need to be.
As I said, I'm an academy graduate. I was an officer of submarines. Who would expect that? That I'd end up homeless and repeating routine myself again. If you don't like homelessness in your environment, say this to the audience. Do something about it. Get to know somebody who's homeless, get to know what they need, and help meet those needs. Get involved in your communities to help resolve the issues. As we said, it's not them and us. It's a responsibility. More and more elderly are ending up homeless. It's a responsibility for our society to fix the inequalities. There's so much financial inequality. There's so much racial disparity in homelessness. We need to fix women's equality and racial inequality. There isn't. We don't have it. We've never had it from day one. We need to fix that. And the companies that say Black Lives Matter, but don't change the way they're earning money off the system because of racial policies, make them walk the walk, not just talk the talk. Thank you.
I'm going to piggyback on what all of the speakers before me said. And Bill, you wrapped it up with racism and sexism that we face in the homeless community. So I'd like to add this. So the county where we're in, there's less than 3% Black population. However, we represent over 25% of the homeless population. The disproportionality is just out of sight. It's insane. And also navigating this homeless experience, there's no safe space. No safe space. Not even in some cases within the homeless community for Black women. So I was determined to put myself in a position to create those spaces. And I just decided that I'm no longer waiting on a savior. I had to become who I needed for the next person. So I just hope if anybody can take away anything from this conversation here is to be empowered to be the savior for your community, be who you needed while you were experiencing whatever it is you're experiencing. Become that. Because to me, lazy is not doing that. So with that being said, we can't expect those who have not experienced homelessness to have the same passion as we have, or to design these safe spaces for those of us. We know it. I navigated this community where there was no resources for Black women. Not only that, I navigated this community with children. So that was the scariest thing. And I wasn't even homeless outside. I was under the McKinney-Vento Act. I rented a room from somebody. And because my kids were only one of 2 Black families in this school, we became, and I was advocating for resources for my son. Instead of receiving the resources and support, my family was completely expendable, and it was easy to create a story. Okay, let's take these children away from this. She's renting a room, she doesn't have a lease, she's under the McKinney-Vento Act. Instead of supporting her, instead of giving me resources, they decided, okay, you just don't deserve your children. So I had to fight 15 months. My children were taken away from me without any abuse, without any neglect. We slept inside. I paid $900 a month for a room and a bathroom for myself and my 3 children. And I knew, I was determined, I'm going to get my children back. I knew the day they took them, I said, you better cross all your T's and dot all your I's because I'm coming. And just like, turn it back. just like Angelina said, you know, it's hard to get to access resources when you don't have like a substance abuse issue or a mental abuse. I was not experiencing any domestic violence. I did not have a substance abuse issue. I just couldn't afford rent. I just couldn't afford rent. And then the crazy part about it is my mom died. So my mom died, and she told me, she said, go to California, follow your dreams. I came here, I'm renting a room, put my children in school, nobody knows us. It's 1%, it's only one other black family in the school, and I was just labeled.
Yeah, it's like for women, we have to be in a worse situation for ourselves
Yes.
in order to receive help. I literally had a social worker at the shelter be like, well, just get pregnant. Oh, no, I'm good. Actually, I'm really actually okay on that.
I've had some tell me like, well, if you had, like, do you have any mental health issues? Do you have, do you have a problem with drugs or anything? Can we drug test you?
Yeah,
Like,
sure, shoot up real quick, and then you'll give me a house. Like, that's how that works. Like, I'm good.
Exactly. Even through the CPS case, when it was time for her to be reunified with my children, I watched them give women who, like there was a woman who she was addicted to meth. She lost her kids for 6 months. She got them back. They gave her Section 8. They put her in a place and all of that. Now, mind you, she lost her kids again before I even got mine.
I grew up with a drug-addicted mother, and when I tell you this woman was in and out of jail, and they gave her break after break after break, left us alone for weeks. No CPS came, she was in jail the whole time. She still had us. She had extra food stamps. They helped pay her rent. They helped her do all these things. Meanwhile, we were being abused, neglected, assaulted, you name it. We never had electric, we never had utilities. I mean, it was a horrible environment, and they still, I would cry to CPS, please take me away. Please take me away. They would not. They would not.
So it goes to show, like, black families are targeted with
Yes.
CPS. That's
The
another
more
reason
effort you
why.
put in, the harder they want to break you down.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
It's like they wanted to kind of put me in my place. It was like, well, there's a reason why you're here. I said, yes, because the system is racist. That's why.
Exactly.
Exactly.
So I want to, I know, like, again, for any of these questions, we could talk for the whole hour and a half on them. I want to talk a little bit about the role of collaboration. And I want to ask, why is a collaborative approach essential? What specific forms of collaboration, whether it's between government agencies, nonprofits, healthcare providers, or individuals with lived experience or living experience, can have the greatest impact? So talk a little bit about collaboration.
I think the most important thing is being on the board and consistently showing up in as many meetings as you can participate with. I am the at-large officer with lived experience of the Maine Continuum of Care Board. So my responsibility is to being at every single meeting and welcoming people with lived experience to those meetings, helping them attend and helping them earn funds for the needs that they have. They just started a program in Maine where people can earn up to $1,200 this year. I'm going to see how many I can get other than myself to earn it. I've already did it in 2 months. So that's $50 per meeting, that's 24 meetings. So, thank you.
My thought on that, collaboration is absolutely important. Agencies, nonprofit agencies, government services, as I say, and the most important part is those with lived experience, current or past. We have to have a seat at the table. Who better to talk about the issue than those who lived it? We experienced it. My two young friends here telling their stories. Wouldn't they be able to make an impact on those who make policy decisions on their stories? Because it's true, it's real. How can you not believe these stories? So collaboration is absolutely important, but everybody, there's a big puzzle, and everybody has a piece in the puzzle. But if you leave one piece out, you're not going to finish that puzzle. I promise you. I've tried. I've lost a few pieces. The wheel has been invented. We just have to have a deep collaboration with all parties. Cities who have been able to not so much solve the issue, but have great success are those who have collaboration with government, nonprofits, churches, boots on the ground, whatever you want to call it, and most importantly, those who live with experience current or past.
Hello. I guess I just wanted to add a little bit to that about the whole collaboration concept, the need for it. As I mentioned, I am on the steering committee of this, umbrella organization, you could say, Lancaster County Homelessness Coalition. And, it comprises, I can't even tell you the exact number of agencies, but a lot of organizations, as well as, government entities, the city of Lancaster, the county of Lancaster, quite a few nonprofits. They're all involved, and in one way or another, like being members of the actual board, the steering committee, or in terms of funding, competing for funding resources that ultimately comes from HUD, but then gets, distributed down to the state level and the local level. And the only thing that it just seems to me, though, that once money is being allocated to a specific group, or this agency or that agency, they all get their set amount of money, right? But then I'm not sure, and it could be because I'm a little bit new to this, but I'm not sure how much they continue to communicate with each other and collaborate with each other. They each got their little piece of the pie as far as the money goes, but then each agency or group or faith-based organization, they all do maybe slightly different things. It's not like they all do the same thing, but they all have some aspect of the homelessness crisis that they're dealing with, and some are more effective than others. And but they don't all get together on a very regular basis and kind of decide maybe we should implement a certain type of policy that we can all agree to. So I'd say that it's kind of like certain groups, these 2 or 3, maybe they do a lot of collaboration. And then, groups X, Y, and Z, maybe they do as well, but not everybody really collaborates. And it seems to me that there probably should be a great deal of additional collaboration. There are a lot of organizations and a lot of resources that are out there, but for an average person who suddenly becomes homeless, you're not aware of all those resources or how to find them, and you get just so many different stories that people will tell you. Even the place that I stay at now, Water Street Mission, go to the Water Street Mission. You can stay there. It's it doesn't work like that. You can't just show up and say, hey, I need a place to sleep. The sad thing is a lot of people do that very thing. They do show up and say, I need a place to sleep. For when? Tonight maybe? No, if you're lucky, you'll get a scheduled interview in 4 or 5 days, and then they're gonna make a decision, and that could be another couple of days. Best case scenario.
You have to have an ID.
Right.
You have to have an ID, you can't have a record, it's high barrier, it's the only shelter it's high barrier.
Right, it is considered a high barrier shelter. Best case scenario, you might get in about a week after you first show up, but if you have no official ID, state ID card, they won't let you in. Criminal records, I don't think misdemeanors, but anything of a serious nature, that'll keep you out as well. And it is almost it's not quite the only game in town, but it's the main, at the moment, I guess it is. Soon, we're going to have a secondary low barrier shelter opening, hopefully next month, and that'll really change things, because I see people all the time walking around in Lancaster who are absolutely, sleeping rough, as they say in Britain, sleeping under the stars. And they're people I know who 6 months ago, 3 months ago, were at the same place I'm at, Water Street, but their time ran out and then they just had to leave and there was nowhere else to go. So hopefully the advent of this new low barrier shelter will at least take a lot of the people who basically either get kicked out or their time is up to be able to go somewhere instead of just back to the streets. But I do think overall, despite so many very well-intentioned organizations and agencies, and even to some extent the government, like the city and the county governments, I don't think there's nearly as much collaboration as there should be. And I think, to my knowledge, I'm probably the first person with lived experience on this Homeless Coalition Board of Directors. I could be wrong, but I don't think that has been the case previously. So I'm glad to be there and have a voice. You know, I'm not like the president or the CEO of one of these many agencies. I'm just a guy who's actually homeless at the moment. Okay.
Yeah, David, that voice is very important. Collaboration is essential to the work that we do. It cannot happen, policies cannot move, and things cannot get done. Like Jose said earlier, having a seat at the table is very important. But you do not want to be tokenized within your seat. I don't say you want to have a seat at a table. You need to have a voting seat at the table. You need to be a decision maker in your community. Standing up and being powerful, owning yourself and making sure that you're making those strides to be that person. Making those policies actually happen. Utilizing advisory boards and the communities that you have. That's why a lot of advisory boards are making it essential that one of those members on that team is a voting member in our COCs that can make decisions, bring up things that we want our community to see. So that collaboration that is happening in our lived experience committees and our youth action boards, we are being very powerful on trying to bring those things up to our communities. Not every community has implemented that, but hopefully we would get that implemented in all communities around the nation. And David being a board member, he's taking one step forward to having that voting seat and making the changes in his community. I have been a voting member in the Solano COC when I was co-chair. And like, there is very important that we are coming together as a collaborative force, as lived experience individuals, and demanding what we want to see in our community. When I worked on the Youth Homeless Demonstration Program grant in Alameda County, I made sure I was at the front of that table, making sure that we saw changes that we needed, putting funding. We earned $6.5 million for our community, and we made sure that half of that money went straight to housing, making sure that we can house individuals in a quick, responsive way. 30% of that money went into peer-led projects. After we had those peer-led projects, I wasn't just satisfied with that. I applied to run that peer-led project, and now I do that, and I've been there for 7 years doing that work. But it's very important that we are working collaboratively together, putting those policies forward, and getting those votes done.
I'd like to add one of the greatest takeaways that I have for participating in, collaborations is language. I learned the powerful language to push policy change. Like before, just like Angelina said, we're angry. We come in with our passion. We come in with our experience. We come in like, hey, we're kicking ass and taking names, right? Point blank, period. But language is important when navigating policy change. And it helps us to not only be taken seriously in these rooms and spaces, but it also helps us to have the necessary linguistic power to invoke accountability, right? If we don't know the language, we don't know the demon. Just go under our feet and step on. So it's like you can go in a room and like if somebody walked in here and they started cursing me out in French, it would not affect me chemically because I don't know the language, right? So we can go in there, we can go in these spaces with our passion, we can go in there with our anger, we can go in there with our experiences, but if we don't know the necessary language to invoke accountability and to be taken seriously, like, oh, wait a minute, they know what they're talking about. We can't just feed them anything, you know. So that's one of the greatest takeaways that I've gathered in collaborative spaces. Being on boards with CEOs, with government officials and things, and then asking these questions, like bringing them out. Like I heard earlier, somebody, was it you? Bring them out like a sponge, like just absorb all their information. And that's what I do all the time. Like I want to know what you know and how you say it to, like I said, invoke accountability and also be taken seriously. So that's one of my greatest takeaways.
On a thing called languages. These COC boards hide behind acronyms and make them stop using the acronyms. Spell out what the words mean. Raise your hand, say, what's that? Apply it. If you don't understand it still, say, apply it in the conversation. So therefore, they can't hide, and you know what they're talking about. And then so can the world, because a lot of these meetings are now recorded. And you can get a copy of every single recording for every committee, for every COC in the country. We should be able to do that as people that are living it. Thank you.
I'll say something about collaboration. How I started was actually like just starting watching the money and budget in city councils. And then they came out with a storage of personal property on city property. And I ended up getting in front of that. I helped support a lawsuit that was started with Anthony Prince, which is with the Poor People's Campaign. For 6 months, we argued against the city, and that final day when we lost, we actually won because they rewrote their law. They included some administrative procedures, which they never followed, but they told the judge they would. You know, we'll connect them with services. We'll make sure to house them first, kind of like the encampment resolution funds go now. And then they were happy. So the next day, that night, we showed up at the city council, city hall, and we created a flagpole community for about 6 months, protesting, silently, of course, propaganda ignored us, so the news, the newspapers, they all ignored us throughout this whole time. Up until COVID, you know, we gained a lot of ground collaborating, whatever, as enemies, I guess. And then when COVID hit, we pushed shelter in place, and that actually worked because we were able to get that staff input and the buy-in. We protested at the Capitol right before that, actually, in 2019, and we were realized there was a little bit of silent majority because you guys suck, and you know you need to do better, and people are dying. What are you going to do different? And you know, you had a silent majority, like not saying a word until we busted in at the League of Cities and Association of Counties, $150 a plate to be able to go to the thing. And of course, nobody living outside is going to do that. You got to be contracted with the county or whatever. And those were the people that showed up. That shelter in place, we forced it, you know, in Salinas and in the seaside. And we were able to get a lot of house people actually helped demonstrate and block and force a special city council meeting to throw everybody off of Roberts Lake into Colonel Durham. And, you know, they're basically living in cars, RVs, hooked up showers, and we needed to get laundry, and, you know, people have kitchens already. You know, a community, like Sanction and County. And then, of course, California reopened. And when that day happened, all bets were off, and we lost all that collaboration, and so now we're still trying to do it through the lead, with the Continuum of Care, and will be installed in February. And like I said, that vote really matters because they want consensus more than anything else. They don't want to hear any negativity, which is why they've been suppressing us the whole time. But you know, we're getting closer.
So I want to just shift gears just a little bit and talk about compensation. Why is it critical to financially compensate people with lived or living experience of homelessness who contribute to these initiatives? And how does compensation impact both the individual and the quality and authenticity of the work that they provide?
I'll just say a quick thing, and then I know you want to say something about this, so I'm going to let you. You wouldn't build something in your house without first consulting with the contractor though, right? And you pay them for their expertise, so why would you not pay an expert in homelessness to speak about homelessness? You cannot make policies or have a conversation about policies or budget without the person it affects in the room. There is no table to bring someone to without that person it affects. You're talking about nothing, you're talking into the air. If you're trying to talk about an issue without the person it affects sitting right there telling you what they actually need.
Every other person in that meeting that works for the state or whatever agency is getting paid to be there. Why the heck aren't you paying the person for the person that's going to be affected by those decisions? They have needs just as much and even far more needs than the people that are sitting there. They have to be taken care of, they have to be compensated. And a word of compensation to COCs. If your board bylaws say you can't pay people with lived experience to be on your board, change your bylaws. Because they should be compensated people on the boards of every nonprofit for whatever that nonprofit is serving. You've got to have people with lived experience that have lived to life and be compensated for it. Whatever that nonprofit's for. Thank you.
If I may, I think compensation, we are all experts now.
Mike?
We are all experts now. Sorry, my apologies. For me, it's actually 10 years, 2016, maybe, my math is no good, so close enough. All right, thank you. And we have, who better to talk about the issue than those who lived it? We lived it. We know it. Day and night. Some of us are still living it. My young friend here. We are experts. Why shouldn't we be compensated? When I had my heart surgery 2.5 years, quadruple heart surgery, I had to compensate Dr. Kane in San Francisco. You guys don't want to know how much I compensated him. Oh my gosh. So he's an expert. He's younger than me. And he's an expert. That's a little extreme analogy, example, but we are experts. I want to tell you, at first when I heard about compensation, I was not accepting it because I let my pride get in the way. I shouldn't be paid to do this. This is a privilege for me to talk about my unshelteredness, state of being unsheltered. Why should I be paid going to a meeting? Why should I be paid gas money going to, and then I started doing the research. Not only do we not get paid enough, some organizations don't pay at all, but they still want to help, our help. They still want us to invite us to these organizations, these conferences, and they want to know from us. So compensation, I have now turned the corner, and I absolutely support. I read one where unsheltered people are paid $250 for events like this, for attending, for coming. Hey, whatever somebody can pay, that's what they pay. But I do believe compensation is an important part. It can help with the gas. It can help with food. You don't know what the situation is for that unsheltered person. That $10, $20 could mean a lot. Gas, pay a cell phone bill, maybe part of a rent, maybe part of paying somebody else back, maybe whatever the situation is. But compensation is maybe buying a piece of candy. I don't know. For me, it's a Coke. Don't tell my doctor. Please, Dr. Kane. So anyway, compensation is an absolute important part of this process, and we should be compensated as we are all experts in our field.
We see this inflation in the world, right? So I live in California. I live here. It's expensive to live here. The minimum one-bedroom apartment is $2,100 minimum. I've seen a lot more. If you want to live in San Francisco, you're paying $3,500 for a one-bedroom apartment, right? Studio, right? My point being is, rent is expensive, bills are expensive, the electric company want $500 a month from me. I work 3 jobs personally, right? I have to work 3 jobs to make bills, get paid, or make ends meet, my bad.
You got 3 kids, that's it. Come on.
Hey, I got mouths to feed, but
He's got mouths to feed, look at him.
I have to work 3 jobs to make sure that I get the bills paid, right? I'm not complaining because I'm gonna work those 3 jobs. I'm gonna get my money. I'm gonna take the money from the system that is out there because that's rightfully ours, right? As a foster youth, you're a dependent of the state, right? They have to pay you because no one else is gonna pay for you, right? So compensation is very important because it helps us get by. When I was in my housing programs and didn't have no money for groceries and all types of stuff, I would go to each of their groups every Tuesday or Wednesday, get my little $50 Target gift card or Safeway gift card and make sure I got some food in the house, right? So it is very important to compensate lived experience folks because you don't know what they're experiencing on the outside. There are so many hardships, the inflation is out the roof. $500 for PG&E is crazy, guys. I don't know about y'all, but I have to live far out and commute an hour and a half to get to work so I can live comfortably. And I'm still lower middle class or whatever you want to call it. And that's because I've strived hard to be in the space that I am now. But I am on 3 boards, I have 3 jobs, and I make sure I'm in all those spaces. And what LyVesha said earlier, if you're gonna get anything out of this conversation, is that lived experience folks are powerful, right? And I wear superheroes on my arm as a symbol of will. Green Lantern is a symbol of willpower. Superman is a symbol of hope. Flash is a symbol of power. And I wear these. Wonder Woman is a symbol of grace. I wear these superheroes because I want to save other people's lives. And I want to give them hope. I want to give them power. I want to give them the will to do what they want to do. And I'm always going to be with them with the grace of Wonder Woman.
Absolutely.
One thing that I'd like for you all to take away too from this part of our conversation about compensation, hopefully this can expand your consciousness in some kind of way. Okay, when you think about your own budget, right, you think, okay, I gotta pay light, gas, water bill, and the rent. But just like Wes said, my partner, if you pay attention to city budgets, county budgets, see how funding is being spent, then that should empower you to walk into those spaces and say, hey, compensate me, because I know you have the money. And when you see that the money on a county level, a city level, a state level, how those funds are dispersed, and the overhead costs, the admin costs, and then you're like, by the time it gets down to me, it's nothing. It's a $25 gift card. Are you serious? So please be inspired to, your value. Your experience is valuable. And also get involved in those conversations. Like, I'm going to bring this up. I don't know how many people from Monterey County is aware of this, but they're about to build a new road on the side of the highway for the bus transportation. And this road is the budget is $78 million. Our population, with the point in time count, we have like 2,000 homeless in Monterey and San Benito County. Just imagine what $78 million could have did for that 2,000 homeless population. So I just encourage, what I want you to take away from this is get yourself involved. These are open public meetings, public town halls. Listen to the money. Listen to it. Listen to how it's being spent. Listen to what's being done. Listen to, and become influential in those spaces. So I just wanted to say that.
I also want to add just a little thing. Be selective also with who you share your voice with. Recently, we went to this speaking thing and they said, just come and listen. We got there, they found us in the room and said, can you speak real quick? Huh? And we didn't agree with anything they were saying before we did that. So I was like, what do you mean? It made me mad. So just don't let these people try and get you with their nice words, especially the religious organizations, because they really be trying it. So.
I'm going to get myself in trouble as a board member for the National Coalition for the Homeless. They held a conference last fall, and they weren't up to standard. The standard is the people that are coming get an Uber voucher from home to that airport or wherever they're transported. They get transported, they get a way to get to the place. They get a $50 per day per diem on the travel day and the travel day back, and $50 per day while they're at the conference. That is the minimum. And if you can't hold yourself and provide those services to people, don't hold your conference and invite people. I'm sorry, NCH, you blew it again, the second time. Fix it before you do it again.
Speak it, say it.
I did, and I'll be saying this at the next board meeting next Wednesday.
Say it.
I want to move us on because I want to allow just a few minutes for questions at the end too. And I want to just move on to the concept of the livability license and talk about what that is. What it is in the context of homelessness outreach and services, and how can it help support individuals and organizations working directly with vulnerable populations? Are there examples of how livability licenses have been implemented and what impact are they having?
All right, so, I'm going to help you with this. So, okay.
You have 1 minute.
Oh, no, don't do that, don't do that. Don't put that pressure on me. Don't do that. So we love for any member of our community who goes through the CARS assessment to be given the livability license. With this livability license, it will also include their rights and things like that, and it will also be their proof to officials that they are receiving services and they're open to support and services, so that they can basically feel empowered when they are being criminalized just for their unhoused situation. So I'm going to let you talk a little bit about rights and responsibilities. That's his.
Yeah, that looks a little different. But I guess I'll give you an introduction to this livability license, honestly, because I come across so many people that I pushed them into, in 2014, they're like, oh, I need my CARS system. Okay, cool, let's do that. Coordinated Assessment Referral Services. And the HMIS, Housing Management Information System. But if you get plugged in and you get steered toward a provider, this is how they all get paid, Continuum of Care, so it's all sales pitch. Oh, they just don't want services, just go away. Well, now we see people have services, so what do they get for signing up? So, and for me, that's 400 square feet in a structure, 20 feet by 20 feet, and a tent or their vehicle or whatever. And if they have more stuff, then they can put another structure on that, but, within that 400 square feet. It's been hard to do. And I video, I cop watch a lot, so I'll intervene in the middle of a police interaction saying you can't be here, you gotta go. But where do you go to? And that's always been an issue. Sometimes it can divert and make the police go away, they just give up because what they're really trying to do is stop and frisk, make you go to jail. And so this would be kind of like the QR code would be for the individual, the resident. They'd be able to have direct access to their case manager through the continuum. And then that way they can say, hey, I just got approached by the police and they stole all my things. And they told me if I come back, I'll get arrested. And for me at this point, the only real power we have is collecting data, creating a baseline. And that's what I do a lot with the videos too. And the more people that are in it, you're going to find out just about 90% of everyone in Monterey County is also signed up with the Continuum of Care. So if they're telling you, go sign up, that's how you're going to get help, okay, well then where's the help? At least the bare minimum can be next to no police interaction. You know, you're given an address, and basically it's fluid. You don't have to be there, but during shelter in place, we actually had county logo seals on RVs, and the Continuum of Care actually came by and drained their gray water every week. So that was like $75 a pop, you know, and so they're spending money to just maintain, but it's a lot cheaper than sweeping them out, you know, and all they're really doing is stealing from you, so that you have to start even in a worse situation, in the back of the line somewhere else. So you already know that if you create a firm foundation for people, they will grow. That you can redirect behavior a lot easier than you can just stuff them out, because you're not actually getting to the problem solving. I'm a teacher, and I always have to worry about all 30, 45 kids at once, even the ones that are really annoying. But you know, they're not hurting anybody, so they have to be accepted and brought in. And that's all this is really trying to do, is have the residents have a way to communicate with the case manager, and then provide data toward the jurisdictions to prove whether or not what they're saying is what they're doing.
Does this card exist now, or is it just a
No.
proposal?
It's a proposal at this point. And our volunteer has a couple of small QR codes to hand out to you guys. Our volunteer over there.
A volunteer?
Um,
You looking at me? Am I-
No, sorry. I volunteer with the yellow lanyard on. So these QR codes, if you saw on the livability license, it has a QR code. So with these QR codes, they're interactive, and after the members, the unhoused community members has their livability license, they can update their information or report any data. We can collect data from those forms on the QR codes if they're being harassed, when, and collected on incidents. So if you scan those QR codes, you can see the questions that are asked, and that data will be collected. That's the proposal, for us to be able to collect that data. Whether it's good or bad, you'll see there's opportunities where unhoused population can highlight agencies for actually supporting them, or also just to amplify their voices, collect the data, amplify the voices. So take a moment if you can and scan it, and you can see those questions that will be added to each one of those livability licenses.
I want to touch on the livability licenses. I think this is a really cool concept. My county, Alameda County and Salon County have been talking about it a little bit, but in Alameda County they spoke to, like, imagine you're doing a coordinated entry assessment, right? And you do that assessment, and you're put on a waiting list for housing, and you might not get called for another year or two for that housing, right? But by that time, your numbers changed, your addresses changed, your situation has changed. This is a good opportunity for you as individuals to have power over your life. Updating your information, making sure that when you do get the call for housing, and knowing what your place is on that waiting list, and being able to scan that QR code and see, okay, I'm third in line for an apartment and they need these documents from me, and being able to have that in your hand as an individual gives you more power, right? As case managers, you know, I know in my community, like, we get so many things where, okay, we got all these youth that are matched to housing, but we can't reach them because their number has changed, their situation has changed, and no one knows where these youth or these homeless individuals are. So having the power to change that information can be a really big game-changing opportunity for a lot of people that get left behind because they're not, right, because they're not, you know, they don't know what's going on. Because I don't know how many youth and young adults I've worked with that change their phone number like every week.
Right.
Every week. Yeah.
And you have I'm sorry. On those forms, it also asks, and I want to tell you something, that's like a a general basic QR. We can update the questions on the inside at any time, where we can add, if it's certain data we want to collect, we can add more questions on the inside of that data. But it also asks somewhere on that form, would you like to submit a grievance for any reason? Would you like to be contacted by the lead committee or things like that? And like I said, we can adjust that however that the data need is deemed necessary at that time.
I was going to ask you, like how big is your caseload as a case manager?
17 active youth, and when we say active, when we say active individuals, we're talking about folks that we're meeting with weekly or bi-weekly. But the peer navigators that are under me have those 17 folks and do one-time services for any youth that need those services. And then those one-time services might be that coordinated entry assessment to put them in the system. And then we might not hear from them again. To have an interface where you can update their information on the HMIS portal would be game-changing.
Yeah, because the caseload, like in Monterey County, I know it's closer to 40 or 50 per case manager, and it's really easy to slide. So that the people that are able to input their own information, they can keep up, cover your butt, and prove that, I did this at this time. And there's also a geolocator too, so then you can pin drop where you're at. This is where I'm at. This is where I'll be until I check in again. But so then caseworkers can find you on a consistent basis.
Great.
So the,
Oh, not yet. Oh.
go ahead, Angelina.
I was gonna say, I love that you're doing this on West Coast. We need it in the East Coast. Because in our town, there is currently no legal space for someone who's homeless to occupy. None. There's no encampments. There's nothing. If a homeless person stays in an area for too long, cops are on their way. There was a location, Binns Park, that a couple mil that they paid to put a fence up to block them from staying there. Is the only covered area, and that was the place outreach workers went to help people. That's where people knew, obviously, it's not safe. There's issues. It needed to be disbanded, but if they would have handled it, it would have been handled. But it got really bad because that was the only place to go. Now there is no place to go because our city is catering to big cities. We're a commuter town. So we keep building luxury apartments while taking away affordable housing. The shelters keep closing down because grants passed, and now everyone's like, why is that my problem? Why do I have to have a winter shelter? Why do I have to have low barrier shelters? So there's literally just the one high barrier shelter that he mentioned. It has 80 beds in the emergency shelter. Then there's a residential program that has a lot of rules. You cannot work the first 6 months. You have to go to classes, you have to go to church twice a day, you have to clean, you have to work, you can't get paid. And then after the 6 months, you have to get a job and pay them rent that they don't document on their budget, by the way. That's the only shelter in the area. They're building another one. We'll see how it goes. But as of right now, our city has nowhere legal for anyone to occupy. So having those cards and having a way to literally just, at the bare minimum, find people, they can update it and be like, that's where they are now, would be great. Because right now, everyone is just spread out and hidden throughout the city, trying to hide and just find a place. They can sleep in one spot one night, 2 seconds later, the cops are showing up, they have to move to no one is in one spot. Everyone's bouncing and it's bad. It's getting bad.
That's how to keep people anonymous.
And until we collect this data, it's just hearsay. We're just talking. It's just word of mouth. It's just a bunch of stories. But until we can gather it all in one place, data, which is policy.
So we have about 5 minutes left, and I just want to turn it over to questions. And I saw 2 hands already. I saw the lady in red who has the mic. Go ahead.
I have it, and I'll be really quick. Thank you so much for sharing your model on the livability license. I'd love to learn more and carry it to my county, Santa Cruz County. And I think Antonio actually answered my question about whether you've integrated it into your homelessness response system. So is this something that you're planning on doing in the short to medium term? And is this license being recognized by other service providers as something that is usable? So if your league or your league has already recognized that it's important, have you translated that to other service providers in the county as well? And how did you do that?
Well, our COC is overseen by the Coalition of Homeless Service Providers, which is all of the homeless service providers. It's all of the organizations. And we are taking this proposal to the Leadership Council, which Tim, he's the chair of the.
I could probably answer some of these questions.
Yeah, he can answer some questions also. But
I presented once already today, so they didn't want me to present again, but yeah.
when we take it to the Leadership Council, we're hoping that they adopt it and it becomes general.
You're from Monterey County?
Yes, Monterey, San Benito County.
Perfect, all right.
Right next door to you, so, yeah.
And then
Can I go? Yeah, thank you for everyone for coming today. So glad to see everyone here, all these leaders here. And, you know, when we first started thinking about this livability license, right? It started with West, we were talking about it, we created it. We really wanted to bring it here before we launched it so that everyone could do the same. This is just a great idea, right? I mean, this is proof of homelessness. You know what I'm saying? This is a chance for people to update their location. It's a chance for, there's so many possibilities with this livability license. And hopefully it'll prevent some harassment. You know, that's why we put the rights on the card, you know what I'm saying? And that's so like if they get harassed, they go, look, I got the card, like, I'm just waiting. I'm on the wait list. You know what I'm saying? I mean, we had to start thinking outside the box like this, you know what I mean? If we really want to start making some changes, you know what I mean? And then it won't give them any excuses for, you know what I'm saying, they don't want to be housed, you know what I'm saying? Because we hear that so many times, they don't want to be housed. Like, I've been leading outreach efforts in our area for 4 years now. I can't say I've ever met anyone that doesn't want to be housed, like ever. I mean, yeah, they might tell that to a reporter because they don't trust them. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, I just wanted to tell you a little bit more about like the purpose of bringing this here, and I hope that everyone can take this with them. And thank you guys for all. It's so great to see all these leaders here. You know what I'm saying? Everyone here has received the same calling. I feel like, right? I don't know if you feel that same way. I know I've received the calling to answer the call. So,
Next.
My question is, in Minnesota, for the past 3 years, when it comes to compensation, it's been everything from a $10 gift card to $60 an hour. And just recently, as a matter of fact, it's one of the things that I need to do when I get back. I'm in a position where they've asked me, so what should the compensation be? So my question would be, one, how do you figure out what the budget is and or any other information so that you don't lowball yourself, but then you don't want to price yourself out of the opportunity?
I would say a high hourly rate. That way, even if it's just an hour, it's consistent across the board, not taking into the person who's asking you to speak's budget. If they want you to speak and they value you, they'll pay your worth. That's what I say.
You don't say.
I say across the board, you set your price and you set it high. If they really care and they are being honest about it, they'll pay it.
But it just hasn't been from the perspective of a speaking engagement as much as ongoing. You know, like for example, with the state, with the governor and the lieutenant governor, we have a year-long contract. It's 25 hours a month and $60 an hour. So it's not, and all of ours are like that, so that it's a contract over a certain period of time.
Yeah, set a contract. Sounds good. Yeah, that sounds good to me.
You know what I think personally is we have other board members in the room, right? And they're getting paid a certain amount per hour, right? So what I think is fair, and benefits, right?
Oh, yeah.
So what I think is fair, if you are having folks in a, that are coming up and are on your board and participating, that they get that same wage that the directors are in there. If it's $30 an hour, they're getting $30 an hour. If it's $40 an hour, whatever the average is between the people in the room, I feel like that is what that person should be getting. And it should be on a stipend basis based on how many hours they want to contribute. If they're contributing 15 hours a week, then it should be an average of what everyone else is getting in the room. So if someone's getting on the high end $80 an hour, and someone's getting on the low end $30 an hour, let's pay like 50, $60 an hour, or whatever that
But
amount
we're
is.
in rooms where it's everything from the governor to
Mhm.
the mayor to admin. So how do you,
Well, that's where you gotta be
Aim high.
creative. Aim high,
Always high.
super the middle, in a sense, super the middle. Don't aim low, don't aim high, super the middle, in my opinion. And,
High and bold.
because governors are getting paid a lot, and then the low ends are getting the low, the low end of the money, but super right there in the high middle, whatever that amount is, and then stipend it for however many hours they're working, and be consistent across the board.
I mentioned that we could talk for the whole hour and a half about every one of these topics. And we are at our time limits. But I am going to honor, we have one more question here that we're going to give an opportunity to be asked and answered. And then I'm going to encourage you, you see the faces of the individuals who are here. We are here for another day. Seek them out if you have additional questions. Also, all of their names are in the packets. If you have things you want to talk about further, I know in talking with this group, every one of them would be willing to talk to you more if you would, if you ask them. So we're going to end it with this question. Go ahead, Nagel.
Okay, I don't know if it's a question. Can you hear me okay? It's more like a statement or thank you for this livability license. I feel like a lot of unhoused people get a bad name because house people, this is just my opinion, house people come and do the what do you call that? The violations, let's just say that. Okay, that unhoused get a bad name for. This type of identification card would eliminate the house people that come and terrorize our unhoused from being in that spot and stop victimizing them by charging to put a tent in the corner or doing other things that I can't mention in public. Yeah?
I want to hear from Katie.
Okay, someone else who has, you have a microphone back there? Go ahead. I do have a microphone. Go ahead.
So I wanted to say with regards to the compensation thing, this is me talking, not really asking questions, sorry, but at least for the next few months, I mean, we don't really know what HUD is going to look like after January, but currently, they need you way more than you need them. So the answer to the question of how much to charge for your hourly services is whatever you think is reasonable, because those providers literally have to do that if they want their chunk of that COC funding. COCs get an annual planning grant. They get millions of dollars. They absolutely can afford to pay you what you're worth.
That's why I said go high.
Absolutely,
Look into
yeah.
the budgets. You have to.
Yeah, I say screw their budget.
Well, yeah, you don't need to
Go high,
score
that's
when
their
you're asking.
problem, figure it out.
Yeah. And the other thing, the thing about HMIS stuff, I love that. I'm also, one of the benefits of it that I immediately noticed is that it would require COCs to actually inform people that their personal information is going into a by name database, right? Because they don't have to, there's no informed consent. HUD does not require that, most COCs don't have it. So, also don't let them tell you that it's not possible to do it, because there are HMIS systems that are client-facing. Also, are you planning to bring other people with lived experience to that meeting where you're taking that to the leadership board? Because public comment is going to go a long way towards swaying that room. And I want to know the time and place so that I can be there.
Save you a Zoom.
So here's what I know. I know that from being in this room after the last session is that within the next 60 seconds to 2 minutes, someone's going to come through the door because they'll need to reset this room for the session that's going to start in a few minutes. But I would just like to ask all of those of you who are in attendance to show your appreciation for those who gave the time to present.